Hello, one and all. Oh, I fucked that up massively. All right, no, let's
That was
keep.
Keep
really
it,
well.
keep it, Andy, keep it.
Keep it,
Hello,
keep it.
welcome one.
And all, one and all.
Hello,
Keep it.
well,
That was
hello,
good.
hello, hello. Okay, hello, and welcome
Hello,
to.
hello, hello. Hello,
ep-
hello, hello. What do
ep-
we have here?
All right, let's actually restart that, man. Hello, and welcome to episode 3 on the AM Filmmaking Podcast. I'm joined once again by Pranav and Abs. How are we doing, both?
Woo,
Yo, yo.
Wagwan.
best people. Easter special.
It is indeed.
It's a very nice, bright, sunny day, and we're all inside again.
Yep.
Miserable lot.
Looks like it's going to be for another 3 weeks, to be honest.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be analysing another comedy film. It's our second one that we're doing for our podcast. And it's going to be on Sacha Cohen's The Dictator, which was made in 2012. I'm sure we've got lots to talk about.
Yep.
It should be quite an interesting topic. So Abs, Pran, like, what we've been up to this week? I mean, a lot has changed really in the past week or so.
It's gotten worse, to be honest.
Mm.
Not to be a negative Nancy, I'm not seeing a lot of improvements right now. Good old Boris is out of thingy though.
He's out of action for the moment,
Yeah.
isn't he?
Mhm.
It's worrying, to say the least, but I guess we have to keep perky and, just keep marching, really. Find out or find something to do or anything to do that sort of keeps the spirits up.
Yeah.
And just keep your mind off it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
I mean,
like
At the end of the
anything
day,
at the end of the
spending
week,
time with your family or indoors playing games.
which is
watching
pretty much all we
movies.
do.
Yeah. Not much has changed, to be honest, but
No, not
you know.
much, but we're enjoying life
no.
as much as we can enjoy it at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, I 100% agree, especially with, like, it's good just to take your mind off things, especially like going outside in this nice weather is actually saving our souls. Just like, even just for a little jog, or like, I'm doing so much housework, it's like unreal, to be honest. Like, I've been spending for the past like hour or so just like putting cement in between cracks of like of pavement out in the garden.
The pavement, good.
Yeah, it's long, but like there's nothing
He's got
else to
very
do.
nice pavement, Pranav. We know this.
But yeah, I mean everything with like Boris and and even like, but the one thing I've noticed is there is definitely, like, I don't know if it's just me, but there is definitely more of a togetherness in the community. Do you not agree?
Yeah, definitely. I think
There's a sense of everyone coming together, isn't it?
yeah, I'm seeing a lot more video calls. Everyone wants to be talking. I think we'll miss the social side of things. So when this is all over, it's going to be a huge blow up, and everyone's going to be outside. Everyone's going to be watching movies. It's going to be a big boom, pretty much.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Well, the boomers are going to be out.
Well, I don't know, because we could be,
the baby boomers.
yeah, potentially. Yeah, like a lot of things, like the things, like I said last week, things change each day. It's pretty mad, to be honest. But like, we're not gonna talk too much about this or just lockdown stuff. We're gonna go straight into, one of the most controversial films
Amazing movie.
Oh, for goodness sake! Here we
Dictator.
go.
Loved it.
Here we go.
Love it.
You
Love
loved
it.
it.
We'll
and
rewatch
hated
it. Watched it last
and-
week. Watched it again.
Ugh.
You know what? Can watch this every day. It's just a great
No,
movie.
okay. You can see the split opinion, especially between me and Fran.
All I'm gonna say, guys, I'm just gonna be here. I have all the oil and the fuel in my hands. I'm just gonna be pouring it over these two throughout the course of this podcast. So if it does get heated, just know it's all controlled.
Yeah, he would do a 4D splash. So if you do have a
You don't
4D,
need a fire extinguisher for that, not oil and fuel.
Oil, and
adding fire to
everything.
the fire, pretty much.
Fire, everything.
But
I'll be adding some dakadal in there as well.
oh my days. But overall opinions, like, I go on. I'm gonna start with Abs, just to keep it neutral. But like, what was your opinion on The Dictator?
first opinion, when I first watched it, I was like a bit taken aback. Because again, it's not your usual film. It's definitely something way, way different from your usual films that you would probably be watching. My first sort of initial reaction was, "Oh gosh," and then as I got into the film, I just ended up laughing. And the thing is, because you're taken away by the comedy of the film, that you sort of not forget, but you tend to overlook all the, shall we say, the smaller details. After rewatching it, I think in total 3 times over the past 2 weeks, it still stands. It's still, in my eyes, a funny, great movie. But there's definitely certain, shall we say, areas that could have been worked on, improved, or just didn't hit the par with me. So that's as neutral as I can be. Funny as hell. Honestly, I had a stitch, more or less, watching this film because there were certain scenes that just had me bawling. But yeah, that's my opinion, I guess. Now it's on to yourself and Mr. Pran.
Mate, that was an essay during that. I must say.
No, I was like,
Do you want
God, mate.
do you want a first in that?
Well, first of all,
Oh God.
your point about it being a shock factor at the start, obviously, I think the movie basically did its job there. It's made to be offensive. It's made to just make you be like, whoa, and just surprise you with every joke that they make. My overall review, I think there's some parts, obviously, where you're like, ooh, that's a bit over the top, or this joke is going on a bit longer than it should. But I think it does a really good job. I think we need a movie like this now and then to just help people escape from this whole how do I say things without not offending people?
It's the safety. The thing is a lot of the time they play it safe. Especially I'm not going to lie, in today's society we do have to play it a bit safe, and that's as far as I'll go to talking about that. Because again, it's a safety. It's a safety factor. So I think that's what it is. They're afraid to make another movie that as out there, you could say, with this movie here.
Yeah, they're all like PC Principal from South Park. It's like we all just need to relax and just enjoy movies like this. It's offending everyone. It's not just focusing on one race or one gender. I think it equally offends everyone.
This is the thing, but this film is definitely more extreme than what we saw, what we analysed last week. Obviously, last week we analysed Mr. Bean's Holiday, you know, our funny, kind of humorous, you know, and then all of a sudden we're treated to this dictator of Waida that he just made up next to Sudan. And, you know, he's strolling around the streets, and he's, honestly, the film, yeah, like it has its moments, like 100%, but this was treated as Cohen's first ever like Hollywood blockbuster. Like he only did Borat, obviously made him more popular, and then he did Bruno previously, if I can remember rightly. But because I remember this film being like really publicized. Like I'm not gonna do any spoilers at the moment, but I remember this film being publicized everywhere, like even on like the kids channel when I was younger, you know. But like my real concern with this was, I can see why, because it's Hollywood's tactic of, I quote, in terms of getting bums on seats. In my opinion, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are moments where I'm laughing on the edge of my, like I'm laughing my head off, mate. But there were moments where I think, well, that didn't make sense, or well, why was that there? You get what I mean?
The context. It's like it loses context in some areas, and you find yourself sort of lost, isn't it?
Dude, that's what I mean. It's meant to be just what's going on here, or just complete confusion with that movie. I think it's made to be that stupid and that racist. You get my point?
Yeah.
They want it to be like this.
Yeah, no, I 100% get their intentions, but yeah, like it's again with Mr. Bean. Like there's only so much you can do. Again, this movie again is only 83 minutes long, so it's about maybe roughly the same time as Mr. Bean. I remember Mr. Bean was
shorter, actually. I think
is it actually shorter.
Yeah, I think it's a bit shorter than that, because it was obviously got that long credit scene, and then like
about an hour and movie in total is about an hour and 24 minutes. The Dictator.
It is quite fast paced moving, I have to say.
Mhm.
You know,
It does jump out a bit, isn't it?
does, you know. So just breaking down the details. So the main or the bio is the heroic story of a dictator who risked his life to ensure that democracy would never come to the country he so lovingly oppressed. You know, so it's almost like that's a really clever title because it's really good because it's saying like it's almost like a love story for him, but obviously it's in a comedy way because you know there was a whole battle of kind of dictatorship versus democracy. You know, I think that was a major theme throughout.
It's
the loving memory of Kim Jong-il to begin with, actually, which is great.
He was the
The first thing you agreed to.
previous dictator of North Korea, was it?
I think so.
Yep. Father or uncle of Kim Jong-un. I might be getting this completely wrong.
I think
One of
it
those.
is. I think
Let's not
is.
go too far as to find out who it is just yet.
I'm not sure. Again, I say it has its moments, but there's just some like most of the time I'm just like I know what they're intending to do, but it's just running up dry. You know, like let's get into spoilers. I think we need to get into spoilers because there's only so much you can say until you watch the film. You know, like
Should we start from the intro then?
go on then.
Just to the intro, because I think the intro of the movie is so captivating. Obviously, you're greeted with the Kim Jong-il thing. You're like, wait a minute, that was a dictator. So obviously, you're already into the movie, and then there's like the nuclear threat, the bumfuck middle of nowhere Wadia with dictator Admiral General Aladdin.
Don't forget the baby with a bloody beard, and then his wife is
Mother being
Mother
murdered.
dies in childbirth. You know, I'm doing the
Yeah,
buddy.
yeah.
You just see the guy with a pillow in the face just whoop.
You know, already, if you were like, say, an innocent person watching this, you would turn the screen off like straight away. Like it's not one of those comedies to be watching.
And then you get to see the Olympic Games that he's hosting, shooting everyone around him,
Yeah.
and then changing words to Aladdin and Aladdin.
Mate, that is actually in my positive.
I think that was Aladdin.
Yeah. I mean, it was
That was a big Aladdin for me.
You are HIV Aladdin.
Aladdin.
And then the guy, I think I love this again. It's the physical comedy of the guy smiling, and then he looks really depressed. Then he smiles again, and then he looks really concerned. Like it's kind of like because what happens in the movie is he changes pretty much the whole English alphabet or like majority of the words to Aladdin. So then people do not know. So basically, positive and negative would change to Aladdin. So when someone says you're HIV Aladdin, you have no bloody idea if you are positive or negative. You know.
I think that's
So you
great.
don't know if it's Aladdin or Aladdin, basically.
But like, I think the whole beginning for me, like the first 10 minutes were solid. Like, kid me wrong, like it was really good. You know, we were into this kind of dictator person. There was laughs and thrills. You know, when his stunt double comes out, he gets shot in the head, and you know, and then you get to come towards like the character traits of, you know, he does that action of, and he's like, oh no, I'm not gonna kill you, and then when he passes on, he does the, you know, he does
the little hand movement to
just
gesture,
to
like
behead
cutting
him,
his head off.
cut his head off, you know. I thought the whole beginning was brilliant, you know, and even when he's playing on the Wii, he is scrolling through the type of games to play. You know, there was London Underground, 9/11. Like it was brilliant. It was brilliant, that beginning part.
It's ballsy. Is the thing is, as I said, my first watch, it had me sort of taken aback, but it's so ballsy. You end up loving it. It's one of those movies where it's so ballsy. You just love, you just love the movie just because you can see Sacha Cohen as with, Borat and his previous other movies, including Ali G. It's that sort of I don't care attitude, if you know what I mean. He doesn't care if he's offending anyone. He's just going, you know what, this is funny, I'm going to do it. And he does it so well.
And
yeah, and he's offending everyone. That's the thing. So I think that's what's great about it. It's not just one specific area that he's focusing on. It is everyone. I think you'd go in, or someone would go into that movie laughing in one scenario, and the other scenario being like, you're laughing again
Yeah.
at something else.
I mean, clearly, it is intended for people who are not to be offended. You know, like it's for, you know, the kind of teenagers, or it's people pretty much like majority who want to laugh at one another. You know, but again, we'll get into why I think these films, like, you don't see many of these films coming out recently, in my opinion. But like, there was some good moments. I mean, I think personally, as well, Aladdin's double. What would you call him?
What was his name?
I actually don't know.
Let's just call him the farm guy.
The farm guy, the guy with the sheep man.
Yeah,
Sheep man.
Sheep man. Yeah, I thought, you know, it was played by Sacha as well. I thought he was hilarious. I thought that was brilliant as well. You know, and especially the scene where he's with the Virgin security guards, like with the women.
Yeah.
But when he arrived in America in general, when you're hearing the music in the background, the next episode in Arabic, and then he arrives with all those Porsches or Lamborghinis. Which one are they?
The Lambos. The Lambos.
Definitely.
Yep, cars and women, and the great
camel.
music in the background.
Don't forget the camel.
Literally.
It's just straight up camel in the middle of, you know, New York. It's that ballsiness that you're attracted to. And the thing is, you know, Baron would have had that entire street closed off just so you can walk or ride a camel through the street.
Yeah.
And those scenes are great. Like just the whole scene that's set up there and the music around it. I think I just love, like I mentioned, the music stuff. Couple of songs in the movie. I think it's "Everybody Hurts," "Working 9 to 5."
Yep.
And all those in Arabic.
Yeah.
They're just great.
That was done by, I think it's his brother, Baron Cohen. The music was done by, and he's actually worked pretty much with him throughout all the films, like including Grimsby, Borat, and Bruno, but like all of them. I think that was a really smart idea. I can't speak today.
It's great, and like I want more movies to do that. It's just come up with these original ideas about what they want to do. A lot of movies that you watch, when they play something like "Everybody Hurts," it's always like the same thing in the sad scene. This one just makes the sad scenes funnier as well. And they're not many sad scenes, to be honest, actually.
No.
The thing is, the movie the sad scenes, they play them off comedically, if you know what I mean. They're not focusing on making it sad. They're focusing on still trying to make you laugh, even in those scenes, as you guys said.
Yeah. But that's, you know, yeah, like I 100% agree. And I think the music in this was actually really ingenious, like what Pranav said. Like it's hilarious, you know.
It's creative.
Yeah, as well. Yeah, there was definitely a creative mindset to think, well, this is a random foreigner in USA, like doing that mix. It's just ingenious, you know. And I think as well, in my opinion, who I thought was really underrated was Mr. Lau, who was the Chinese ambassador. I thought he was funny as well, in terms of he was the reason why there was kind of a plot or story, in terms of, you know, when he's with the other ambassadors who are interested in the oil company, and it's like, oh yeah, China's becoming a democracy, and he laughs behind his friends like, oh, like, you know, it's
like as if you actually believe that.
With his wife.
Huh?
Oh yeah.
Oh, the scene with his wife. Oh my god.
That was definitely different, wasn't it, guys?
You fat hoe. Oh.
It's not English. She just says, "Oh." I think that's a great, you know. Yeah. I definitely wanted to see more of him in the movie. There wasn't. Yep. I think there were like 2 or 3 scenes with him, and that's it.
Yeah, it was. It was just the scene where they were having the United Nations talk, which I thought again, when the sheep man walked past the podium, he then urinated into a drink and then poured it on the Israeli UN
and
First
delegation.
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that whole bit was great.
Well, let's not overlook the fact that he actually drank the
Piss as
jug
well.
of piss.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that was grim.
that was
And that was a really
hilarious.
smart scene as well, because you could see how the news people are describing the whole thing that's going on, and he's just being stupid there.
Yeah.
So I
Props to
think
the people.
politically and like news-wise, the movie does speak strongly. It's basically trying to say that news people do blow stuff up and describe it in a different way to what's actually going on. And what was actually going on was just him falling over the podium or
That's actually a really interesting point because, especially when, like I think the media like definitely over exaggerate it, not just like in the like obviously in the film when he was obviously drinking. Well, the Aladdin double, or the sheep man, whatever. I forgot what we call him.
Sheep man.
one of those.
But like, they're exaggerating, saying, "Oh, like drinking urine," saying he's a higher supremacy. But like, in my opinion, like the media don't obviously say that in the real world, but I do feel they, especially with like coronavirus right now, like they over exaggerate things. Do you not agree?
Yeah, and they're making a great point there in the movie there. They're saying that the media portrays it in a different light to what's actually going on. They could be doing something really stupid, but the media's well, it doesn't happen that much in the real world, but um they're going to the extreme and saying, look, even the stupid things, the media's telling the public something else.
100%. You know what it is? It's a social commentary. It's a very smart social commentary on the status of our news reporting teams, you can call it, because we all know that it's very blown out proportion or hyperbolic. This actually brings me to one of the scenes. I'm sure you guys know the helicopter scene with Nuclear Nadal and
I
Aladdin.
love that scene.
It is hands down probably my favorite scene in the movie, simply because it's 100%. It just highlights what people see when they see a certain type of person, and then it's sad. It's a sad scene when you think about the social sort of commentary of it, but it's also funny as hell considering the sort of the dialogue between Nuclear Nadal and Aladdin.
Yeah. He's just talking about his Lamborghini or something, isn't he? And he says, "My
his
Lamborghini
Porsche,
911."
his 911 Porsche in 2012.
Yeah, and then he's they're talking about landmarks and stuff like that, and all of a sudden people just pick up the small words, and that's a very nice commentary on how people hear things in this day and age. They pick up on small words, don't forget the sort of context in which it's being said in, and they just focus on that single small bit until they can create a villain from it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I think it's actually kind of real to society in a deep, like not in a disrespectful way, but when you saw in the film when they were speaking in a different language, they actually looked really uncomfortable. And then when they were hearing those words of 9/11, Osama bin Laden, blah 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 blah, and then you're pointing out the areas, but like some people, like unfortunately, they do get intimidated from that. And that scene had to be judged to perfection, and that's why like 100% agree that is actually one of the best scenes in the film, because it's one of those
and even though
touchy subjects.
they do it in a comedic way, I think there is always a background point to that scene that they're showing. But even though they're showing that this is very extreme, obviously they're showing they're talking about 9/11, not 9/11 itself, but their car, and then 9/11 2012. And all those things, even though it's a bit extreme, and like you wouldn't actually hear people talking about 9/11 like that, and then speaking in a different language. I think the actual point of the scene behind it is there.
Well, it's taken out of context. Like it is actually taken out. When like say you're in the tube on your own, and then you hear someone say, like, or someone laugh really loud, or or someone say something or whatever. It's taken out completely out of context. That's what I think is this is a deep meaning behind this scene. It's saying when you take things out of context, they could mean anything. They could be something nasty. They could be something hilarious. It's one of those things, isn't it?
100%, absolutely. Because what it is, it's selective hearing for one, and it's almost like they're commenting on how we disregard other cultures' beliefs, languages, if you know what I mean. So it's that idea of them being disregarded and their identity being sort of taken away from them, And you can go very, very deep into this, but let's sort of not go too deep, shall we?
I mean,
Yep.
we've got loads of
As
time
long as
on
we
our
do.
hands. I think it's a really interesting topic, really, because as funny as the scene is, it's just reality, isn't it? Like I'm just speaking from experience. Like when I'm going on the London Underground, or if I'm going on the bus or whatever, it's just that kind of I don't know.
You know what, I can actually talk about this from a personal level. I've been on a train because I used to take a train to uni, and what happened was some days I need to just do my work on my laptop, and what happens from time to time is whenever I go to my bag, someone might give me the odd look, and I'll catch them, and I'm thinking, you can't be serious. Just because from the color of my skin, you're sort of initially looking at me all weird. It's actually,
Yeah.
it's an anxiety that you end up having or developing, that people are looking at you because of your color of your skin. And obviously, sadly, it's something that impacts everyone or most people from day-to-day life, especially because of the stigma around a certain, shall we say, ethnicity of people, which in our society, it has no place.
Yeah, abs. No, 100% agree. Like it definitely a reflection on everything, and it's a really deep topic. But we could talk about this for like ages, in my opinion. But like let's look at and this is why the scene is such a positive for me. Like it's one of we've already discussed it, man. I didn't realize how deep we'll go into this, but
I think just the writing is on point for that scene. They've done
Yep.
everything well there.
Yeah, and actually, I remember in the advertising that was the one scene they were really like pushing for, because it was like if you want to see this kind of out of context situation in a helicopter around the USA, that is the best. That is the best, like one of the best scenes, 100%.
Another scene I'd want to mention, actually, whilst we're talking about best scenes, is the one where Clayton is basically about to torture him, and he
I
screams the whole time.
personally, I put that in my negatives because that's when I felt
Really?
That's when I felt the story was going downhill. Just
Yeah, but come on, he's a backseat torturer. He's basically saying all your weapons are out of date.
yeah,
And then he gets upset. He's like, maybe you don't want to be tortured. And he's like, I don't want to be tortured.
yeah, and I get what they're trying to do, but it just didn't work because I understand it. Like it's meant to be there to be like, hey, I'm here to torture you, and then he's getting all emotionally deprived or whatever it is. But like,
But did that not work because it was the second or third time that you watched it? Because if it worked the first time, I think that was the point of it. If it was making you laugh the first time you watched the movie.
when I first watched it, it didn't make me laugh because I said, well, this is a weird turn. Like, if anything, they would have just. I thought personally, when he came to the bed, they would have just taken his beard off and then left him in the streets. That's what I thought was going to happen.
True, but then where's the comedy in that?
Yeah, but true, but then like it'd be like that scene for me. That's when I felt okay. This is turning into like I don't know. I just saw that was the turning point for me where I was like, okay, yeah, he's lost his beard. Like it's tragic for him. Like no one's gonna bloody recognize him or whatever. But I just I don't know. I just didn't like that scene. Like.
I really enjoyed that scene. I think that scene was great.
But the comedy, it feels forced. Like I know it's a forceful movie. It's about being racist, but like it's like, right, I'm gonna try this weapon. Oh, he's gonna make another joke. Oh, I'm gonna try this weapon. He's gonna make another joke about another country. Like it was the same thing. And there was another scene similar to this. I think it was, I'm gonna ramble on, but it's in the restaurant. You know, when he's making up his names. How many times does he do that?
It happens, I think, a total of 3 or 4 times, where he's sort of just there, sat there looking at the guy, sort of dumbfounded, trying to come up with as many names as possible. The first time round, I have to admit, it was absolutely hilarious when you realize what he's on about.
That's the thing when he's like, La disco room.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. But by the third and fourth, honestly, I was just like, come on, you said that so many times. Can you do something else clever? Like,
They did use that scene in first, the Zoe scene when he's with her. I'm gonna keep pronouncing it the way he
Zoe?
pronounced it. The first in that scene, and then in the restroom scene, and then just after the helicopter scene when the news reporter says that his name was emergency exit only.
Oh yeah. Yes. So when he's coming out
But
of
I
the
think
helicopter,
it
yeah.
brought the joke back for me because it was like you'd think, oh yeah, they've overused it, but then they'd use it again out of
I
nowhere.
think
It's like it's just
it's, you know
God.
what? You have to give it to Sacha Baron Cohen, though. That's the thing. He can rinse a joke out, and you might not find it funny, but he'll still go on to use it one more time. It's just like that. Severally, it's like his. If we connect it to Borat, the one main joke that came out of that was, "I like you, you nice."
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah, but Borat, there was more variety. Like I felt with Borat, yes, that there was he obviously had a specific hate for Jews, and he had a specific hate, like he liked people. Like one scene that was memorable. When he said "I like you," and then he goes back to the subway and says it's a guy, and then the guy was gonna bloody punch him in the face. But the thing with the dictators, yes, they did bring it back. Like I 100% agree when he said emergency exit only or whatever it is. That's funny, but like
Yeah.
there were times, and a lot of the time, where I was just like, it feels forced, and I'm very like kind of like, I don't know. I wasn't getting. It's again. It was that kind of like he's kind of doing the same thing, in my opinion.
You see, that had the opposite effect on me because I was like, this is so stupid that it's actually funny, even though when they're repeating jokes, it's like it's funny because it's unfunny. And I don't know how to
Yeah,
describe
but
that.
there's no creativeness. I'm not seeing any creativity. Like there's only so much you can do in terms of like it's funny with the Arabic kind of pronunciations and everything everything like that.
Yeah.
But when it's constant throughout the film, I get so lost, and like I don't know. I just felt that's what was losing the film for me, because it was just that constant. There was no breather for me. Like comedies, I know some comedies there's no breather, but there just needs to be that gap where I could be like, okay, I need to take this in. You get what I mean?
Mm, I get that. And I think talking about breathers as well, there was some parts in the film where obviously it's meant to be that racist, over the top film, but there were some scenes where it just felt forced for me.
There you go.
Where let's say right before the
Yeah.
helicopter scene, um, when he's being racist about the Chinese
Oh,
stuff,
but
I think
see,
that was funny, but
yeah, but that was
it's over the
funny.
top where it was like, does that need to be there?
Yeah, it does. I think it does, because he's mocking
When he's
being.
talking about Lodger Labbit and they can't pronounce L's, I think
Okay, yeah.
it was funny, but like it was a bit stretched out, and then it was like it was just out of nowhere because he just starts doing this whole Chinese thing, and I was just there like, what? Where did this come from? It felt like they had to include it because they were being racist to everything else. They were like, okay, we need to put in this scene just to balance everything else out, so we're being racist to them as well.
Let's offend everyone.
And
Yeah.
I think people were like, "Can you just get on the helicopter?" Like, as me as an audience member, I was like, "Okay, that's funny being a Chinese tourist," but I'd rather if they just made that scene like really quick. Like maybe pretend to be a Chinese tourist, and then Dal kind of just slaps and goes, "No, let's get on the helicopter." But 100% agree that's a prime example of
Yeah.
where jokes are longed out. You know,
And that felt like a filler scene because it felt like one that must have been shot afterwards or something because it didn't feel like it belonged
It was out of place.
during that part of the movie.
So, you know what made that scene funny for me? It was actually, Nadal. He was a funny sort of piece of chemistry in that actual scene. And Jason, let me see if I can pronounce his last name,
Jason
Mantzoukas or something like that. He is absolutely hilarious. It's his voice
Mm-hmm.
and his ability to sort of just let comedy flow through him, if you know what I mean. I think that's, he made that scene funny for me. It wasn't necessarily the joke or the racism or anything like that. It was more the reaction and the way, he was told to sort of react to everything. How he's sort of looking at him from a logical side and going, no, stop. That is what I found
Yeah.
funny. And I think that's why I like that scene. But I can definitely agree with you guys where you sort of find yourself out of place with it just because it is out of nowhere he's making that joke, and you're like, oh, okay, right.
Mm.
I'm not sure what to make of it, but you have to move on with it, though,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, I like his name Nuclear Nadal as well. So I think bonus
Nuclear
points for
Nadal.
that.
Nuclear Nadal. Yeah. No, I thought no, Jason did that character really well. I think he really drove his character as well. And another character to mention, I mean, there's lots of things to mention, is actually Zoe's character.
Zoe.
Zoe.
Zoe. I mean, him and her, like, their relationship, like, I don't know. It's just like, because when you think about it, even my dad and Archie even pointed it out, when we were watching the film, they said, when they said, hey, welcome to our vegan, lesbian, gay, bisexual shop. But like, Archie and Dad just went, well, to be fair, that would have been funnier at the time. But the thing is, there are actually vegan shops now around. There are kind of those shops.
First of all, they've casted Anna Faris in that scene perfectly, and she plays that character really well. She's got the right haircut, right height for the character that they needed, and I think, like I said, yeah, she's a complete caricature, like all the other characters in this movie, where she's playing that lesbian, vegan. Well, she's not lesbian, but vegan,
Non-binary.
healthy, non-binary, just completely over the top character.
Yeah.
And they do make a good combo together, even though it makes no sense because he's completely racist and over the top, and she's very PC. It's a hilarious combo that they've made there.
Oh, she was Jewish as well. Just a reminder at the end scene. But I just felt, again, like the only scene that I found, I mean, to be fair, there are actually two scenes that I found personally really funny. When the number one was obviously when he like Aladdin kind of, he has to win the contract back, so he kind of has to motivate his team. I thought that whole sequence was hilarious.
That
it's
story
like
was great.
Yeah, and when Zoe turns up and then the camera pans to see her massive like head on a picture frame. I thought that topped it all off.
It's that touch of Aladdin, really, isn't it?
Like a dictatorship. Yeah, they've turned the store into a dictatorship. That's why he's been called like Supreme Grocer in there.
Let's not forget, the scene where he touches his khan, wherever it is.
His bulbul.
to get some Lebanese.
And again, it goes back to, I think this is a video editing point, when he is doing the thing, and then it cuts to, you kind of get this bird, then you get
you get planes flying.
You get Kobe doing a slam dunk, and then not forgetting Forrest Gump finally being able to run.
I think that's a very well edited scene, and it was just a hilarious scene because that's the first time he's touching his shpluk.
Yeah.
I think it's very well shot. Again, I love, like we talked about facial comedy in the last movie in Mr. Bean. This is a complete opposite movie to Mr. Bean.
Mr. Bean was one of its kind, though. That's the thing. There's a lot of these kind of comedy films, like The Dictator as such. But it brings me on to, but this is the thing. It's again, it's the overused jokes and the overused cliches that made it quite tiring. Like, for me, especially when he was going to jump off the bridge and commit suicide, I was just like, by this point, I'm just like, well, yeah, I don't know. I wasn't getting the right vibe off it, personally.
Yeah, again, that's one of the scenes for me where they've kind of not got all the writing for them. It felt kind of rushed. And it was just like a scene that was just included in there just to add to the story and plot. And it didn't make a whole lot of sense with what he was doing and like his character in general. Like, but even the Nuclear Nadal character's like, this isn't you. What is actually going on here? I think it was just a complete like confusing scene in general. It was like, what is this?
You know what? I think what could have happened is they may have had a joke or two sort of made up in mind, and they sort of based it around that scene, or they made a scene to sort of fit the joke, if you know what I mean. It just felt like one of those ones where they've made the joke, but they don't know what kind of scene they want. And so they've decided to sort of create this this out of nowhere jumping off a bridge, I'm about to kill myself scene, and it's like, I think it happened for everyone, where everyone's sort of thinking, what? Where are we? Why are we here? What led to this?
Yeah.
You know, I'm pretty sure.
But he was depressed.
Yeah, it was.
Go on.
And all I was going to say is, I'm sure even Jason was confused. Even I'm pretty sure he was just sat there thinking, what is going on?
But again, this is where I thought, like, especially the end, like, apart from like the last scenes, like, the story for me was quite a mess. That's not gonna lie. Like, all jokes aside, I mean, especially that end scene where, you know, for fuck's sake, like,
We start talking about democracy and all that.
yeah,
Is that what you mean?
yeah, that scene especially, and
See, again, I would say that's a smart scene for me, because, like the news scene, this scene, he starts describing America and saying, why wouldn't you want to be a dictatorship? Here's all the things you can do, but then you realize all that America is already doing. So I think that's a hilarious scene.
I don't know, because by that point I was semi lost. I was laughing at the funny bits, you know, when the harpoon snapped and then we get that nice image.
It's burned
Yeah,
into our
it's
minds.
But you know, but the thing is, it's the kind of like when he's about to tear up the agreement to be a democracy, and then he just stands up. He goes, "Oh, look, they taken my beard off. See, just to show you." And then, like, the bad guy, his name, I'm just gonna call him the Hood, because did you know he was Ben Kingsley. He was
Ben Kingsley, Uncle Tamir.
he was the Hood in Thunderbirds. My childhood classic, man.
That's such a great film as well.
And he's played a lot of evil roles. He was in
Yeah.
Prince of
He's a
Persia
great
as
villain.
well.
I'm not gonna lie. Have you noticed how all great villains are British? I think we're just evil people, guys.
But like, for me, Tamir wasn't, like, in this. I don't think he was suited for the role, in my opinion, because he was kind of like, I don't know, because if you see him, like, I think this is a casting fault, because why would you hire this guy? Because I don't think he's done many comedies, in my opinion.
I think I would disagree with you on that, to
Here
be
we go.
honest. I think, ooh, there you go. I think I'm gonna disagree. I think he belongs. He's played a lot of evil uncles, like I mentioned, Prince of Persia, Persia, Prince of Persia, and I think in this he plays that role perfectly. He's supposed to be that smart, well, slightly smarter uncle, and he's a more serious one. He wants that wants the place to be a democracy, and he wants to sell the fuel and make them, like, just let the world into Wadia. And I think that was casted perfectly, because he's just completely baffled by everything that what's his name, Aladdin does. So I don't know. I think, yeah, he doesn't belong in comedies, but isn't that kind of the point? You're kind of putting this character that isn't a comedic character, because he's supposed to be the serious role.
He didn't play it off as a comedy villain. That's my problem, because he just had that stance where it's just like, okay, if he was a villain, you know, I'm gonna go back to Thunderbirds because that's the one I remember. You know, like, I just didn't see any comedy through him. You know, the only comedic scene, I'll go back to the beginning, which it works. You know, when he held his hand to go and see his nuclear bomb, that for me was the only scene where, you know, it fitted for me, for his character. But when I think of comedy villains, you know, for example, Samuel L. Jackson in The Kingsman, I thought, like, you know, I know I'm swearing off a bit, but, like, it's comedy villains like them that make that difference. Do you not agree?
I think with Ben Kingsley, he's one of your he the way he plays himself off, he's very serious, and you even see him in Iron Man 3 playing the Mandarin. The thing is, I have to disagree with you, Pranav, on this one, bro. It's because
yes.
See, I'm gonna disagree with both of you.
Fuck
To
you,
be
then.
No, right.
Fuck you. Get off our podcast.
Shutter
Rein it in, children. Shut up, let me
Mexico.
speak, children. Right. The thing is with Ben Kingsley, he always has a very big backstory, or he has a moment to sort of explain himself. I don't think they use Uncle Tamir, Ben Kingsley, to his full potential in this movie. And this is where I disagree. because he is a serious character. He needed a serious role, but he can do comedy, but he can't at the same time. It's forced for him. He just plays. The thing is, you can have jokes going on around him, and then he can have like an outburst or something like that, and that would be funny. But what happens in this one, they don't use him well enough, I think. And that's sort of something I picked up on, because if you look at Thunderbirds, if you look at if you compare him to in the Mandarin, he's a very classically trained actor, and because of that, he can play a serious role any day of the week. Give him that role, tell him he has to be evil, he has to have an. If you give him a scene where he has to do like a little monologue, I think he would have been perfect. You know, they just wasted him. They just threw him to the side. Like, look, we're just gonna push you to the side.
Yeah.
But if they add comedy to him as well, he's supposed to be like the balancing thing in the movie. I would say for me, he's supposed to be like the one that's balancing the stupidness of the movie. So if you make him like villain as well,
But
the movie would just completely feel like a dumb movie. It would have gone all over the place.
yeah, but
If you get what I mean.
the movie is already at its dumbest. Are you saying because Ben Kingsley, he only had his character Tamir, he only had about 15 minutes of screen time? Not even that. Like I didn't see much of him. So in a way, he was the one who was kind of imbalancing it, if you get what I mean. Because if he's the only one being serious and kind of being like, especially in this a really good scene when, with the Virgin Guards, and obviously the farmer doesn't understand how he's trying to pleasure you,
He's giving us a reaction that the viewers would give, or like a normal person, with quotation marks, a normal person would react to that situation. I think you need that balance now and then, because if he's just adding to the comedy that's already, the scene is already comedic, then you are just going to create more confusion.
I don't know. I just felt he was just there because he is a bad guy, and especially what baffles me, it's just that end scene where, I'll go back to it. It's like, oh yeah, he's trying to force me to sign it, and he's tried to kill me, blah blah blah, and then the security guards kind of get in, but they don't get Aladdin. They let Aladdin continue what he wants to, but it's just like, well, he could be the dummy, like, after all. Like, I don't know.
I think we'll just have to agree to
I
disagree
think
on this
that's
one.
it's a stalemate, guys. The main point I think we can all agree is they could have used Ben Kingsley a lot better in that film, and they missed the mark.
I think a lot of characters they needed more of. I think they focus a lot of just on General Aladdin and like just his story. I think a lot of characters needed a bit more
Again,
development
it might
there.
have been purposeful in that sense, if you know what I mean. I think they did it like that. They could have done it like that because they wanted it to be. Again, it's meant to be a dictatorship. It's meant to be about the dictator. It's not dictator and co, if you know what I mean. There's always one person. So they could have done that intentionally. But, if they did it like that, then that would, again, that's amazing screenplay and writing, and hats off to them. But the main point being, they wasted a few characters here and there, or a few actors, and missed out on a few critical areas, so to speak.
That, again, it's definitely critical people, like Mr. Lau. I wanted to see more of him, and there's just so many more. So I think we talked about this. Well, I mean, I would have to mention like even the end scene actually, for me, like the whole ending sequence. I thought that was a nice end to it. That kind of woke me back up, in my opinion. Like, especially, like, I think one that stands out for me, especially, we brought up this kind of, Aladdin is really close mates with Osama bin Laden. And then the camera suddenly zooms into the balcony whilst the wedding's happening, and you see Osama bin Laden. I thought that was just fantastic. Like, and I wonder who played him. I've tried to research who played him. I don't know if any of you guys could find out.
I don't think we're meant to find out.
Maybe.
I don't think.
Just look for Osama bin Laden.
It could have been him. It could have just been Sacha Baron Cohen. Actually,
again, Cohen is he's that one remarkable actor that he can pull off any role and just disguises any person, I think.
But like, I think the ending is very much a remark to like kind of the beginning. It's kind of summarizing it.
The ending, it's so different. They did it like that, I think, purposefully to contrast with the way it began in the beginning, from him unable to make a simple speech to the people of Odia, and him cracking up mid-speech and talking about nuclear weapons and everything, to him marrying a very different person, so to speak.
Yeah, and don't forget they did entitle Democracy, but just in a forceful way, especially with the voting system.
There's a tank there.
yeah, that was funny. Yeah, definitely.
And one of the things that I mentioned last movie when we were watching Mr. Bean was that that was a very family movie that you could sit down with the family and watch it with everyone. I know Adam's gonna have a different point of view on this,
Right, go on, say
but for me, I do not think I could sit down and watch this one with my family.
No.
There's no way.
Depends on your family.
I would not be comfortable.
Depends on your family.
It depends on family to family. But like, I think I speak for most people, I would say, unless you've got like KSI's family where you can sit down and say what you want.
Wow.
Yeah, KSI, if you want to defend yourself, join the podcast.
Yeah.
But I think it would just be an awkward one because the jokes are hilarious, but there's some scenes like, let's say that when they're doing their thing on the top of the balcony where he starts licking her armpit, you could not sit down.
I could never.
Yeah, true.
Never in a million
True.
years would that happen. Never.
It just depends on your family. It depends on your family. Sorry to cut in, but like my family, the reason why I watched it with my family just to experiment is like for the second time, is just like I want to see if that changes my mood. Like it was similar to the Mr. Bean thing. Like it actually changed my mood watching it with other people. But
was there any sense of discomfort when you were watching it?
Well, the armpit scene, yes, that bit, like I think you got a lot of what is this, like, and then it's
sort of you're covering your eyes in that scene, like you're cringing a bit.
See, if I was watching that movie with my parents, that would probably be the scene where the TV would have been turned off by then. We'd probably watch something else by then.
If I was watching it with my family, about 10 minutes into the film, it would have been turned off anyway. The whole movie.
Wow.
Yeah, that and the pregnancy scene where they walk elbow deep.
We wouldn't even get that far enough, mate. We wouldn't even get that far.
That scene was funny.
But there's another hilarious scene where they hold hands inside.
It's the woman screaming at him, "When you're not balls deep in my vagina." That is
bloody hell.
That was hilarious. I can't lie.
Yeah, speaking of the ending, I was going to say random facts about all the movies. So I think last time, Mr. Bean, I forgot to mention my random fact, which was the fact that Mr. Bean's first name is Mr.
Oh yeah.
It's on the passport, the documents that he puts down, and like it's proven his first name is Mr. It's not his what is it? Title at the start or anything. That is his first name.
Is he called Mr.
Fact about
if someone was giving him a job interview, would you call him Mr. Mr. Bean?
Yeah.
No, you'd straight up just go Mr. Bean because that's all you hear him.
I'm just saying, if Mr. Bean
talking.
was in an interview, I'd just go Mr. Bean. How you doing?
That would be his first name.
Mr. How you doing?
Random thing about this movie that I don't know if a lot of you noticed is that final scene there when Uncle Tamir shoots his bullet and the farm boy jumps in front, but that bullet is headed for Zoe's head. He pushes Zoe into the bullet like that. I don't know if you guys noticed or not.
Yeah, no, that bit was a mess. Like I didn't want to talk about that, to be fair, because that was just like why, and it was so slow because Tamir aimed the gun, and then there's like 5 seconds in between he shot. And then, like, 10 seconds for the farm boy just to jump in front. And yes, it's aiming for bloody Zoe. Like, it was such a poor shot. And then the fact that the farm boy survives, that's just bullshit. Like,
that's the thing, it's supposed to be dumb.
No,
it is supposed
but then you're
to be
saying,
really dumb.
You're saying Ben
movie.
Kesey's meant to be this balance, If everyone else is being
but
dumb,
he just shot. He's not like he shot the bullet purposely in slow motion. That's just a movie thing.
But
I'm not saying he's personally like supposed to be the smart one, but like he just shot.
Breathe, children.
It was bullshit. No, I couldn't stand that.
You see, the thing is, I think what Adam's getting at, it's too silly beyond the silly that you like. I think that's where Adam draws a line. There's a certain type of silly that he likes, and then it was at that point where it got too silly, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So overall ratings, I would say.
Yeah,
What
I
would you
think it's a
actually rate it out of 10?
yeah, like I think like after discussing this, I mean there's a few opinions like here and there, and we just go like like if you bring it all into context in terms of this, this film was actually really hyped like after he done Borat and everything, and this was meant to be the next like big film.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I feel it was I mean, it wasn't completely terrible, but like for me, it was a bit of a flop. Like, I mean, the jokes were there, but like it didn't like, I don't know. It wasn't like it was definitely a miss for me.
Oh.
Like if I had to give it out of 10, like I'm gonna be harsh. Like I'm gonna say a 5, straight up.
Yikes!
Okay, he's not too far off from the official IMDb rating. I
Yeah.
think he's actually just 2 above it because, in fact, IMDb gave this movie a, if we're ready for it, 3 stars out of 5.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
Well,
right, Pranav,
in my opinion, I think I found this movie hilarious, and every time I watch it, like we said, Mr. Bean was like this background movie that you can leave on. This movie, every time I see it, I do want to just sit down and watch the rest of it. And that's the thing about it. The jokes are hilarious. They haven't like gotten old or anything. Overall, I'd give it like an 8, to be honest, from my end.
Okay.
I think it's one of those movies I'm going to watch again. I'm more likely to watch this than Mr. Bean again.
Yeah, true. But like, then this is the difference. It's like, yeah, I know you don't want this family movie, but what is a comedy then to say where we can watch it with our family?
Mhm.
Like,
That's true. But maybe I need to try it out. Maybe I need to risk my life and see what would happen if I sat down and watched this with my family.
if you need a place to stay, let me know. It's okay, Pranav. Don't worry. We're here for you, no matter the hardship.
So what would you rate it, Abs?
Ooh, now hearing on after everything you guys have said and weighing up pros and cons, I think I'm giving it a solid 7.5.
what? 7.5?
It's a 7.5.
What?
Nice.
That's
what I
absolutely on my side. Wow.
Listen, no. Listen, the reason actually, you know what? I'm
Go
gonna be a
on,
bit
go on,
harsher
go on.
still
I wanna
and
hear
be.
it.
I'll be 7. I'll be a 7.
What? You can't
Yes.
bring it down.
Yes.
I'll bring it down.
You already made
I'll
a
bring it
I love
down.
this
decision.
guy.
No. Listen, no. Shush, both of you. Let me give my reasons. You give your reasons, let me give mine. So as discussed, the movie at times loses the plot, and regardless of whether it's, I know Pranav, you said it's meant to be a dumb, out of place movie and everything, but you always want to have a little bit of context at the end of the day, and where they lose context, they sort of lose me. Now, Pranav, that's on the bad side. Adam, the great side is the movie is friggin' hilarious. Even though it's loss of context, you're still too busy laughing your eyes out. Your eyes are sort of out of your skull because of the jokes that you hear, and because also your stomach is, slowly cramping up from how much you're laughing. I think that's my most neutral standpoint, really. It's been in between both of you. I want to hold you off from a fight.
True.
At the next link up, okay, you guys better not go to blows over a movie.
No, it's fine. We're all friends here, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
But no, that was. I mean, I don't want to be. I mean, I'm only being harsh just because. Yeah, I like story. Like that's for me. I mean, I like comedy to extent. Like I think the best one for me in terms of comedy, is like Deadpool, for example. That is where
controversial.
Really
not controversial at all.
I was gonna say, like, I think that's one of the best comedies I've ever seen.
But then, if you don't like the same jokes being used, surely you can't enjoy Deadpool 3. 2 movies in.
Did you say Deadpool 3? I don't know what movie you've been watching.
No, 2 movies in. 2 movies. Surely, like, you didn't enjoy the second one then.
I did. I think I liked it even more. I thought the soundtrack was great. I thought that was probably just as good, in my opinion. But anyway.
But then what about the repetition of jokes?
Yeah, whatever.
No,
Why
you know,
isn't
you
there
know
not
what
a
it is?
Dictator 2 then?
Ooh.
There you go. There you
Oh,
go.
he's got you there.
Big boy,
He's got
shut
you
up,
there,
man.
Pranav.
Mic drop.
Told my
Mic
man
drop.
shut up.
Mic drop.
He's getting a bit too big for his
Go on,
boot.
Abs. Go on, Abs. What are you saying?
You know what it is with you can't have a second version of the Dictator because a lot of the jokes have to. The thing is, the reason why Deadpool was so good is you could repeat the jokes and they were still funny to an extent. You try doing a Dictator 2 and start using words like Lebanach and Vagin, it just doesn't work. It's really hard to pull off a movie like that, and I think that's what again, it's playing it safe, but also trying to find the right content, and having a good sort of piece of script to go off of. Whereas Deadpool, it follows loosely or closely as possible to the comic.
Yeah, they already have the written structure there. They know what the ending and like
exactly.
What everything
Whereas
is.
in this case, you have to make a whole new story, whole new jokes. A lot of time and effort goes into it, and the thing is, you can't exactly match something that's been going on from, I don't know, the 70s, 60s.
The dawn of time.
Basically, yes.
Yeah. No, it's all interesting stuff, and it was a great debate, to be honest. Like, I loved it all the way through.
That's good. That was good.
But I think that's all for today's podcast. Thank you very much, guys, for all those listened. I'm sure you enjoyed it. Obviously, all our podcasts are on Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. It's obviously the AM_filmmaking podcast. Don't forget that underscore. I might remove it, to be honest. I think that's what's confusing everyone. Thank you to both Abs and Pranav. I think both fantastic.
Pleasure.
Yep.
And next week we're going to be looking to one of. So this week it was I think it was Pranav's film's choice, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great film choice, wasn't it?
So last week it was mine.
Thank you.
Next week is actually one of my favourites. We're going back a couple of years. It's going to be on Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which was in 1975. Like, definitely, like, that is actually one of my favourite comedies. So tune in next week, Monday. It'll be at 5:00 when it's released. And then this Thursday, me and my cousin are going to be talking again now to the dark side, where we talk about Darth Vader, analysing if he really was the true bad guy behind all the metal and the flesh and bones or whatever, so that's what we'll be talking about. But yeah, once again, stay tuned, guys. Keep positive, get through this, and see you all next week.
Peace. Deuces, people.